Hello and good afternoon. We're going to give it about 30 seconds for guests to fill into the webinar, and then we will get underway. Thank you for being here. All right, it looks like the numbers have stopped climbing rapidly, so let's get started. And good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Jennifer Barber, and I'm the Executive Director of your Sacramento State Alumni Association. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Career Buzz speaker event focused on public service. I'm honored to be here with a wonderful group of Sacramento State alumni, and I'm thrilled for all of you to hear from their diverse experiences and success stories. CareerBuzz connects students and recent graduates with our diverse alumni network through Q&A discussions like this one. Today's event takes advantage of our strong Sac State alumni network. We'll hear from 3 successful alumni, plus our moderator, who have made a significant impact within our community and are volunteering today as part of a larger university goal to keep alumni engaged with each other and students. I'm pleased to introduce today's moderator, Devin Lavelle. Devin graduated with his master's in public policy and administration and has been an avid volunteer with both our Hornets Policy and Politics Alumni Chapter, as well as the Sacramento State Alumni Association Board of Directors. He most recently served as our president. Please help me welcome Devin.
Thanks, Jennifer. As a Sac State grad, I see many people in Sacramento who will say to me, "You're a Sac State alumni? Me too." Well, Jennifer pretty much covered the Sac State aspect of my bio, but I'll add that I'm the Assistant Director of the California Research Bureau, where we provide confidential, nonpartisan research work for the governor in both houses of the legislature. And I previously served as a Parks Commissioner, and I'm a very proud father of 2 awesome boys. Today's event is an opportunity for Sacramento State to showcase successful alumni and hear directly from them about their experiences, and more importantly, for them to share some advice. I'd like to welcome our panelists and invite them to introduce themselves. We'll ask for your name, major, degree, graduation class year, position, employer, and a fun fact. And if I may, we'll start with Secretary Amy Tong.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Devin, that's probably quite an intro. I got to remember what year I actually graduated. I might just stick with the 90s for now for both of my bachelor's degree in management information system as well as MBA degree. They were just a couple of years apart. I actually do not remember the actual year. That's just how long it has been.
This paper I have says 94 and 98.
There you go. All right. You have better info than I do. So little fun fact, I actually met my husband at Sac State. So this is definitely a family affair. And what I do as my career is ever since I graduated from Sac State, I have joined the state of California and had a wonderful nearly 3 decades in the state of California, and now serving as the Secretary for Government Operations for Governor Newsom, which is an agency that runs the operation for the entire state of California to ensure that the state of California is in the best shape possible in serving the nearly 40 million Californians.
Thank you. And next, Mariana.
There we go. Thank you. Hi, I'm Mariana Sabeniano, and I graduated from Sac State in 2006 with a degree in government, which is now called political science. And I am the current chief of staff to Senator Monique Limon. So I serve in the legislature, and I've worked here for about 16 years, long career in the assembly, and then now the Senate. Outside of work, I'm elected to the Sacramento County Board of Education and serve on the Sacramento County Planning Commission. So I'm a little bit busy. Fun fact for me is Probably no surprise because I work in the legislature, but I've loved visiting the capitals in other cities and just seeing and learning more about the government and the building itself and how their structure works. I've been to about 15 capitals so far, and the goal is to go to all 50 someday. COVID slowed me down a little bit, but hoping to pick up on that soon. I'm just happy to be here.
Very cool. And last we have Justin.
Hello, Hornets. Thank you to the Alumni Association for having me. It's an honor to be here with such esteemed panelists. My name is Justin Hurst. I graduated in 2023 with a master's in public policy and administration, much like Devin. While I was a student, I've jumped around a little bit in the state. I had the opportunity to work with the government policy team for Caltrans. I've also worked with the California Department of Conservation on the development of a state public engagement model. And currently I serve with the Department of Finance, overseeing the state's investments for the community college system. I guess my fun fact would be, I like to talk about my master's thesis. In the program, I focused on how COVID transformed the way the state does public engagement. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to kind of work with that in my day job. So thank you all for being here. Hope you all get something.
Thank you, Justin. So we will spend the next 30 or 40 minutes hearing firsthand from these alumni about their career journey from successes to innovation, as well as advice on making the most of your experiences in college and beyond. Our panelists won't be taking questions during the panel discussion. However, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature to post your questions, and we'll plan to use the last 10 minutes to cover as many questions as possible. So with that, let's get started with a fun icebreaker. What was your first job, and what are some of the life lessons you learned from that job? Justin, let's start with you.
All right, sounds good. My first job actually was while I was an undergraduate. I worked for Make-A-Wish. So I was in the nonprofit space first, and I was a wish coordinator, meaning that I got to work with families as they started their process with Make-A-Wish. From that job, I feel like I really learned that you can't really know what someone's experience has been until you talk to them about it. And some of the stories that I heard were really harrowing and really stick with me to this day. Ultimately, I feel like something I've taken from that into future jobs was that you should always give someone the benefit of the doubt and empathy when you can, because you don't know what experience they have.
Thanks, Justin. Mariana?
Thanks, Devin, for that question. So I kind of I've been working I feel like I had so many jobs as the oldest in my family. I've worked since a very young age, but my very first job I had where I received a paycheck with my name on it was when I was 12 years old. And it was during the summer months of 7th grade, and I worked as a farm worker alongside my mom and my aunts and cousins. And I did that for 3 months out of the year for 4 years until I turned 16, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go work in McDonald's. But I really learned a lot. I think I learned the value of education and the importance of working hard to earn that degree and then implementing what you learn in school in your job. And I learned that because all the conversations I had with people that I was working with as a farm worker, that's what they talked about. They're like, you don't want to be here, you speak English, like go to school, learn new opportunities, and grow in that. And so I took that to heart. And I did. I went to Sac State and then started my career in public service and the legislature, and looking back to give back to those communities that I got to to learn from and to meet during my first job. And I still carry a lot of that with me. Of if you're, I think there was one of my coworkers that used to say, if you're on time, you're late. So you kind of have to be early to everything. And so that's kind of punctuality is something that I took away from that.
And Amy?
I probably have a little bit more, what do you call it? A startup job compared to what I just heard from both Justine and Mariana. I actually was a babysitter when I was starting it, but shortly after that, I worked for the Sacramento City Unified District as a student assistant in their computer labs in elementary school. as I was putting myself through college, eons ago. And so both of those, closely related to first jobs, again, those are part-time job, but those part-time jobs are invaluable to me because I get to work with a lot of children. And one thing you learn from working with children is really practice your patience and to be a really good listener. And then after that, you have to be a really good communicator or find a way to interact with different age of kids to help them, to achieve what they need to achieve. And even though that was a part-time job leading to later on, getting to more of a full-time, but looking back, not only I had so much fun in working with so many children, but at the same time, I have really, really learned a lot from them. And just, they're always so happy. There's so much optimism and they look at things from a different lens. And we often think about, when we're in the challenging environment, you just need to go back to your, times when you were a kid, say, how would you look this in a much, much more optimistic manner?
My first job was as a soccer referee, and I also learned a lot of patience, not for the kids, but for some of the coaches who desperately needed lots of patience. Um, so let's see. Since we're here today giving some insight to students and recent graduates, let's talk about what has helped you along the way. What is the best advice anyone has given to you? Amy, let's go right back to you.
Let's see. So some of the, was that about more of the lessons learned?
The best advice.
Best
you've gotten along
advice,
the way.
yeah. The best advice is really, the ones that I feel like it helped me most. And for me, those were the lessons learned. The things that I wish I, done differently, the things that I wish I was like, ooh, I should have, thought about that. Are those advice that I'm gonna trying to share with others. So there's a couple of things I want to highlight. One is while you are going through school, whether you are, currently whichever year you are, or recently a recent graduates, look for the internship opportunity as often, as frequent as you can, is really, really going to help you. Two, try different things. I think one of the things I, get to do, and I feel like I wish I had, tried more, is when the opportunity presents itself, whether it's pay or non-pay job, it doesn't really matter. It's about meeting different people, finding those opportunities that you can, get a taste of various domain or expertise area that you might be interested in, but you're not quite sure yet. Take the time to explore. I think that is invaluable, especially at this, early start of your education and career. And finally, don't be afraid to ask tough questions. I always said that, the worst case, we're just going to get a no answer. So what? Then you already anticipated for that. I, as my career take me where I am today, I looking back, like I wish there were times I, would ask questions to get clarification or get help from others without trying to figure this out on my own, which ended up, making a lot of mistake along the way. It, probably will save others headache too if I just asked a question. So don't be afraid, don't be shy, ask questions. So that would be my top 3 advice.
Justin, how about you?
It's a little bit of a cliche, but the best advice that I ever got with regards to my career is don't give up if you're initially turned away. I remember when I was first trying to get a job with the state, I made it all the way to the interview stage, and I felt like I did really well. But when I got the rejection afterwards via email, I kind of let it defeat me. And that discouraged me from trying to get back and find a career with the state for a few years. And I feel like that was, it did myself a disservice in the sense that I feel like I could have been focusing on, well, what things could I have done better? How do I make myself a better candidate for the position? And when I got that advice of, keep trying, I feel like it helped set my direction. I was able to focus on rounding out my skills, getting more experience, and then now, because of that advice, I am fortunate to work for the state in the best role that I've ever had. So that's my advice for anyone who would be looking to either switch careers and start working for the state or is just getting into their career. Keep trying. There's always going to be a path that's laid before you, whether that be what you think it is or just an opportunity in disguise.
Thanks, Justin. Mariana?
Yeah, so I agree with everything that Justin and Amy have said. And what I was going to talk about was very similar to what Amy mentioned. And for me, I think the biggest advice or the best advice that I got was ask questions, don't make assumptions, and be open to new opportunities. I think oftentimes we enter a job, an internship, or a new space with an idea of what we want to work on. And I've done that. I think many of us have done that. But I think, one of the advices that I took away was that you have to be open to new opportunities. You never know what you're going to get to work on that you end up loving. For me, that was when I started working in the Capitol, I wanted to work on education. That's what I knew. And many people that enter this space want to work on education because we've been students for, 16 plus years. That's what we know. That's what we've lived. But when I started working here, I was told, well, yes, you can work on education, but we also need you to put the same focus on health policy, which I knew nothing about. But after a while, working on it and learning more about it, I realized that I did have experience. I had the lived experience of someone that grew up in a rural community and the barriers to accessing care. And so fast forward to today, I still get to work on legislation related to health policy. And it's something that I've loved, and I feel like I've been able to do a lot of work and impact in that area. So I think, yes, be open to new opportunities, ask questions, and don't make assumptions until you've done the work.
Great. Let's see. Our next question. When you are considering hiring someone, what are some of the qualities, not skills necessarily, that you look for either in a resume or in an interview? And Mariana, let's just keep going with you.
Yeah, so I hire a lot of people and train a lot of people because of my job. I think I currently oversee about 20 people in the Capitol and throughout the district, which is Santa Barbara and Ventura counties. And an applicant's experience is important, but there is so much more to that person than what's on a resume. So for me, what I look for when I'm interviewing someone is, can you do the job? Like, do you have a skill set that we're looking to fill in our office? But also, are you empathetic? Are you open to learning? Do I sense that you're going to have, initiative and look for new opportunities to grow? Humility, and of course, a sense of humor. I mean, we spend so much more time with the people we work with. Sometimes I say we spend more time here than we do with our own family. So hiring someone is a big task because you want to bring someone that fits in with the existing established team. And just touching on something that Justin said earlier, I know that sometimes it's difficult to accept when you don't get an opportunity, but don't let that close the door or burn a bridge, going forward. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've run into people that I interviewed and it just wasn't a good match. It wasn't that they didn't have the experience, that I didn't like them. It was just, it wasn't what we were looking for in that moment. And some people, move on from those opportunities and still want to build a relationship, but other people kind of give you the cold shoulder. So, just don't do that. It's not personal. It just, because it didn't work out this time doesn't mean that it's not going to work out next time.
All right. How about Amy next?
Everything plus what Mariana said, maybe it's on top of those. There's two words I specifically look at in hiring somebody. I obviously you guys can look at my portfolio. I really do not know how many people I've hired throughout my career. Currently, I have my portfolio has about 10,000 employees, but my executive team, and Justin, this, there's probably about 30. But the quality of individuals that we're look for, again, not the skills. That's why I really appreciate how the question is structured. It's really what is a characteristic that individual will bring to the office that would uplift the entire team. In other words, we want somebody that are, positive and curious. Maybe curious is a better, because, positivity, whether you're happy or not happy, it's not so much. And we also don't want somebody just always just be, happy all the time and miss the time they are tough. But the curiosity that the individual have to always in a learning mode and always, interested to ask questions and not making assumptions is the best way for the individual to grow. So curiosity in an individual, with that openness is a quality we're looking for. Another quality we're really looking for somebody, especially this job, and I'm, it sounds like all of us are in public sector, in one way or the other, is perseverance. Because especially folks in the private sector, I always said it's a thankless job, right? You don't get a pat in the back from folks if you're doing a good job because that's expected. But if something goes wrong, oh my goodness. And it would take someone that really understand that's the dynamic and be okay with it. You cannot have a thin skin that, oh, you're gonna just get, discouraged, as Justin's point, when he get a decline on his job research, that, how is this, what does this mean? Am I going to take this personal? No, perseverance. In fact, one of the question that we asked, and this is in my early days when I was still doing the direct hiring, I actually asked the person, the candidate, how many jobs you have, been turned down when you apply, and what do you do with it? And that shows that individual is not afraid of challenge, is not afraid of adversity, and that individual is willing to continue to go down the journey despite the challenges. That to me is real commitment to success. So curiosity and showing, that people can perseverance, those are big.
Thank you. And let's finish this one up with Justin.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just preface this by saying, of the three of us, I believe I certainly have the least amount of hiring experience. But from my experience, I would build on something that Amy just mentioned, curiosity. And the other thing that I look for is also initiative. So on the curiosity front, I find that at the end of the interview, when you're given the opportunity to ask questions, usually the interviewees that ask a lot of questions and detailed questions, I find that that is a way that they can demonstrate curiosity and genuine interest in whatever the position is. In terms of initiative, the other thing that I look for is, especially during some of the answering of the questions, candidates that have clearly taken the time to really research the position and beyond just what the job duties are, but also really think about all the areas that it touches. And I think that kind of feeds into the questions and answers at the end too. And to the extent that I've tried to embody that, I've found that it's made a lot of the difference in terms of improving my own ability to interview, as well as helping me to ultimately go into a position and be better prepared.
All right, let's talk about successful work styles. How do you set goals for yourself, both day to day and long term? Justin, let's go to you.
I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that I live off of my Google Calendar, and also on checklists, both on my computer, on my phone, and in physical copies. I find that using a calendar is really useful for keeping my days organized, to know what I'm doing from one day to the next, but also setting long-term timelines. I find that, especially when it comes to the bigger, more daunting projects, both at work and in my personal life, setting myself deadlines or progress checks along the way is a way to keep myself motivated and working. So that way I'm not left at, close to a deadline with a lot of work left to do. In terms of checklists, I kind of use that for two reasons. One, I find that it helps to maintain a level of flexibility, especially when I'm juggling a lot of deadlines. So that way I can, think about, oh, well, I've worked on this project for a while. What's the next thing I can work on? And second, I think it's really motivating. Even if it's something really small, to be able to check something off of a checklist, it makes it feel like you're getting something done, and that momentum can then propel you to work on something else further down the line, and just keep you going.
Mariana.
I too live off of to-do lists, checklists. I use Google Keep, and I'm able to organize my work to do, my personal and other activities. And it's on your phone. It's with me all the time. So if I'm walking into a meeting and someone says something and I'm like, I need to follow up on that, I just put it in my Google Keep and just check it. And it lets you check things off. So it makes me feel very organized. At work, everything is a priority. And so I learned from one of my mentors really early on that everyone will tell you, your boss, the other people you work with, lobbyists, constituents, everything that they come to you for is a priority. But you have to be able to prioritize a list of priorities. And just because something's a priority doesn't mean that it's something that's quickly done. Sometimes it's going to take a bit longer to accomplish it. So I use long-term planning, my day-to-day planning to identify what is absolutely due right now versus what do I need to spend a little bit more time. Maybe I need to have more conversations before I tackle that one task. But that's something that I do. And just one of the other things too is because I think in public service, like I said, everything is always a priority. For me, I have to take a day for myself where I just kind of like step away, whether that's for me, it's usually a Sunday where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to think about work. I'm not going to look at my growing to-do list and just kind of step away and take a breather. Even if it's a couple of hours, because public service, there's always a need. There's always going to be something to do. There's more work than time in a day. So for public service, but Google Keep, I highly recommend it.
Thanks, Smart. Amy. No? Okay. We will, let's see, move forward a little quicker, and that's question 5. Sorry about that. So progress often relies on innovation, which is the value of, oh, are you ready, Amy? No? Okay. Which progress often relies on innovation. What is the value of innovative ideas, business practices, or processes in the public service environment? Mar, let's go with you.
This was a little bit hard for me because I feel like innovation is complicated and slow in the public service sector. At least I'll speak for the legislature. Like I feel like it's just really slow. Even like social media, right? The availability and it being a norm of how we communicate with constituents, how we share information took a while to be implemented. But also this is the sector where if there anything, like we're on the front lines when there's new technology, new ideas, new concepts. For example, like cryptocurrency, fintech, AI, autonomous vehicles, like that's something that always gets vetted, regulated, and implemented, or the ability to implement it comes through the legislature. So I think that there is, at least in the public sector and in the legislature, it's a slow progress, but we are making our way towards innovation in a way that it continues to build trust and maintaining transparency of government. I think one of maybe the most day-to-day example that we use this day is right DMV. How do you access a DMV? Whether you're renewing your license online at a kiosk or in person. So innovation can help streamline government and make processes more efficient for everybody.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, I think Mariana did a really good job of covering a lot of the business processes and practices at public service. I guess I'll just focus maybe a little bit on some of the values and particularly outside perspectives. I find that even newer employees can bring a lot to the table when they come into a position for the first time because of their experience that they've had before. I find that a lot of people who work for the state for a long time, or just really in any job, you can get tunnel vision. Like, oh, this is the way we've been doing it for however many years. And when you come in with that new set of fresh eyes, you're able to help the organization more or less reevaluate what it's doing and if it could be better serving what the population you're serving is. Kind of a tangible example of that is with value systems in particular. Without really getting too into the weeds with my day-to-day job, but like equity ideas, that's something that has been pretty important for the last few years. And in particular, when people who have been really champions of that come to start work for the state, you can lend that perspective to people who may not have been thinking about how to incorporate equity into their work. So one way that that has manifested, especially in higher education policy, is the funding structure for how we fund community colleges now takes into account equity outcomes for their work. So I find that even as a new employee, like you always will bring something.
Thank you. And let's see. Secretary Tong has been having some technical difficulties, but it looks like she might be back. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I am so sorry, gosh. In the middle of doing this, like I said, I'm in a new place, so the laptop's going through an upgrade, and I can't even mute myself fast enough to let you guys know I can't do anything. So I apologize for that.
No.
Devin, I know we're low in time, but can I quickly go back to the work style question before coming on the innovation? All right. Because I was, oh my goodness, listening to both Mariana and Justin, again, like the calendaring, the checklist, I'm totally fan of. I'm using that too. But two other things I also wanted to share is do not multitask. Despite what everybody tells you, you need to learn how to multitask. That's how you're juggling different balls. When you're actually working on something, concentrate working on that. Quickly finish that off and then do something else. And that is something that I've learned throughout the years, because when we all start, everybody said, oh, you got to do 10 things at once. It ended up not doing any of those well, as opposed to you doing 10 things very quickly, but concentrate on one thing at a time. You can actually achieve much greater, higher quality output. And what I mean by that is, one, always acknowledge a request that come in, whether it's over text, over email, over a phone call. Even if you don't have an answer at the moment, acknowledge it. So people know that I got it, I have it, I park it, I catch the ball, I'm going to get to it. That is, to me, when we're looking for people with that kind of acknowledgement, that's an organization skill right there. And being responsive, it's organization. It's a good trait of an organization skill. Two, when you're working on something, I literally have a placard on my desk, be here now. What does that mean is if you're focusing on writing, for example, a memo, as much as I know these days people can listen to music and watch a video on the side and do things, and that's the mode of operation. But all you need is, instead of doing that over a 15-minute span, think about it, concentrate for 5 minutes. Just concentrate on the task for 5 minutes. You'll be surprised how high of a quality, how fast you can get things done if you just do that, rather than over the 15 minutes juggling different things. And that is, throughout the years, one of my mentors telling me that multitasking is actually a myth. Multitasking, it's actually drawing attention so much differently, as opposed to be very disciplined and organize your work style. Concentrate, quick concentration, but then move quickly to different things. So I know that might be sounded way different than a conventional, but really from a personal experience, be here now, concentrate on what you're doing, and then quick hit, move on. Believe me, the quality of the work is going to be much, much better.
And that's become pretty well established in the research. Multitasking is in fact a myth. But let's see. And then the innovation question. What is the value of innovative ideas, business practices, or processes in the public service environment?
Yeah, this is definitely those. I mean, if you look at what the government operations doing, one of our main objective is using innovation as a way of transforming how government operates. Now, when people think about government, you tend to come with this red tape, bureaucracy, slowness, big ship, just everything that that probably the negativities associated to it. But despite all of that, finding innovative approach, having creativity is exactly the type of work that we need to or effort that we need to apply to really transform from within. And many times we said, my background is technology. We're like, well, maybe a technology is an innovative measure to do these process improvement. It's not. It's actually the people engagement that is necessary to help people to innovate. So we do a lot of work here that when we talking about innovation, it's not talking about the next new gadget, the next new tools. It's really about listening, conversing with people, draw their creativity, from a daily basis to say, hey, if you have an opportunity to do this differently, how would you do it? And then we expand on that idea and we build on it. Not only you can get a sense of ownership, people engage, but people are really, really can give you, ideas that you probably would never dream you would have. And imagine that level of inspiration you would draw by simply talking with folks and then implement their creativity and innovative idea. Imagine how positive that environment will be. So that's something what we're focusing on.
Cool. So let's see, next question. What advice would you give someone who is still a student or recently graduated from Sacramento State? Amy?
I'll just probably emphasize what I said earlier is get as many intern opportunity as possible. Try different things. Don't shoehorn yourself thinking this is what you need or this is what you want. Until you actually get your hands dirty, roll up the sleeves and do it, you're not gonna get to that point. So just be curious, try different things, and open yourself up with all the opportunities.
Mariana?
Yeah, same for me. I highly recommend take a look at the Capital Fellows Program, where you can be a fellow in the legislature, the executive branch, judiciary. I'm a mentor. I didn't go through the program, I'm a mentor, but if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to answer any questions or connect you with current fellows if you're curious about the program. I did the second semester program, which is it's like similar, but a semester, it's slightly shorter program. So definitely happy to answer questions about that. But also just, if you don't get your dream job or what you think your dream job is in the moment you apply at the first try, be patient with yourself and try again. Things work out in the end. It may not feel like that in the moment, but they do work out. So just keep trying.
Justin?
I completely agree with everything that both Amy and Mariana just said. Just from my own experience, when I was in grad school with Sac State, I really utilized the Career Center, and that's how I got my foot into the door of Caltrans. That's how I got my first state job. So really taking advantage of those internship opportunities, and then both while you're in school and beyond, I really find it useful to lean on your network. And that could be your professors, your peers, even alumni that you may not directly know. I have found that nothing has helped me advance on my career faster than being able to reach out to people who, even if I don't have a direct connection with, not being afraid to say, hey, you're an alumni of my program. I'd love to chat with you, talk with what you do in your day job, what advice you could give me, that kind of thing. Don't be afraid. I know sometimes it can be intimidating, especially if you're just starting in your career and you don't really know what the day-to-day job is going to be. I find that particularly with this alumni community, there's a lot of people that are really open, willing to grab coffee with you and give you career.
I can just add one thing, write as much as possible, write about anything related to school, related to any of your interests, just write. There is very few bigger differentiators between people at the beginning of their careers and whether or not they know how to write effectively. So just write anything, put it down, come back to it in a week, read it, and learn to do it a little bit better through that repetitive process. Get a little feedback if you can, but really write. And with that, we have our last question. We'll wrap up with something personal and perhaps a little fun. What goal, either professional or personal, would you still like to accomplish? Justin, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I have to think about this. I'm a pretty busy person. I like to stay busy, as I imagine everyone on the panel does. And one thing that I do outside of work is I have a professional hobby of I do a podcast that focuses on local issues where I live here in Folsom. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to that and specifically develop it into a business in addition to just being more involved locally, more informed. Working for the state, we're pretty aware of a lot of the, headline worthy things, but I find that being able to connect to local government is also super important.
Cool. Mariana.
Yeah, so I have a couple goals. I actually appreciate this question because it made me reflect and think of like, what are my goals? What do I want to do? For me professionally, I've worked in the assembly and in the Senate. I would like to work in the governor's office at some point to get that experience. So that's one of my goals. A personal goal is I went to Japan last year thinking I was going to be able to hike Mount Fuji. And I knew it was going to take me a long time. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I went in the wrong season. So it was closed. So that's still on my bucket list and something I'm hoping to do soon.
I did the exact same thing when I went to Japan in 2006 or so, just missed the season for it. Amy.
I hearing both of Justin's and Mariana's go, you can tell like there's such a vibrant and their stage of their career. I'm on the other hand, you guys heard from me. I've worked nearly 30 years already. I'm towards the end of my career. My actually personal goal is how do I make a meal without burning something in the kitchen? Yeah, so much so that my kids are telling me, Mom, for our own health reason, please don't cook any dinner. But I determined one of these days they're going to be proud of me. I can actually make a healthy and delicious dinner.
One tip for not burning food: don't multitask.
I should practice that.
And with that, let me say thank you for that great insight and advice. We've really appreciated the conversation, and I'm going to ask Jennifer to come back on camera and share the questions from the Q&A.
Sure, and thank you, everyone. That was wonderful to listen to. Our first attendee question has to do with navigating the exams that are often a part of applying for city, county, or state positions, and how do you try and equitably represent yourself where you might be light in the experience or you've got the degree, but the exam is a little, looking at all the different directions and the barriers that those exams can create and how to kind of overcome that.
I'm happy to take that one first. Unless I know Justin, you're probably familiar with the exam process. Mariana, I'm not sure actually for the legislature there's an exam, but probably this is more to the state of employee aspect. First of all, I do want to acknowledge the exam process is a little bit there's lots of room for improvement. Having that said, there are multiple channels that you could qualify and be successful on the exam, and that does not require a degree. The governor actually was very, very much adamant about that. There should be multiple ways to get somebody into a role with or without a degree. So that's number one. So degree should not be a barrier for you to get a job in the state of California. Two, how do you represent your work experience? It's going to be important. And I think this is where the part that we're obviously not looking for somebody to overly, boast up your experience, but also it's fine to be very honest about the various job that you have had and what you learn from it. Because the experience is really not what the job title you have, but it's a representation of what you learned. And so that from that aspect, what you've learned, what is the value that you have gained from those jobs? Those are a good way to talk about your job experience instead of just talking about, oh, I've been here, 3 months or 5 months. Those time does not necessarily represent what you have learned, through that 3 or 5 months. So think about it from that angle when you are taking those exams.
I'd be happy
Justin.
to
Yeah.
jump on. Yeah, it's actually been a few years since I've taken them, and I find that they change pretty frequently. As Amy had mentioned, they're always being updated. But I think I would go back to something I mentioned earlier about not being afraid to lean on your network. I think, especially if you're able to connect with someone who is working in the job that you're trying to apply for. You can't exactly ask them the questions on the exam, but you can get a better sense of, oh, like what skills would be relevant in that job, and really think about, well, maybe I do have a little bit of this experience. I remember when I was doing the exams, thinking about, well, I did a lot of volunteer work, and while that's not necessarily something that I would have thought would be relevant, I find that there's often these little skills that you pick up in those positions where you're actually able to apply them. And I do think working in a different sector can be an asset rather than a liability, particularly going back to that outside perspective and being able to facilitate any sort of culture shift in a department to better serve the populations that we work with.
Mariana, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, we don't have any exams for the legislature. So even though the legislature is, sometimes referred to as a state job, we're a separate entity than the administration. So we're a little bit different. But all of the jobs for the legislature are posted on the Assembly and the Senate websites.
And that ties nicely to another question on insights on how to know when departments are hiring, or partner organizations to look at, or any sort of general networks to be a part of if you're looking for employment with a state entity.
I'll jump in again. Yeah, so specifically for the state, the administration, or in this case, many of the constitutional office, as well as the independent entity in the larger executive branch, as you say, where Mariana is on the legislative branch. All of those job openings are posted on the calcareers.ca.gov. And identifying those classification that best meets what you're looking for, and then sign up for their mailing list. What that means is whenever there is a position that are opened related to that particular classifications, an email or sent to you directly to let you know, hey, there's an opening, please take a look. And you can submit your application at that time. And the application is, you just need to create it one time on the site, and then you can just apply multiple times. So that would be the best way to get notification in terms of new openings.
Justin, you want anything?
Yeah, completely agree. I know some organizations, I think many with the state, will also go to career fairs. So to the extent that anyone who is still a student is in the audience, definitely go to those, because you get an opportunity to talk with someone who's actually working the job that you might be interested in, as well as getting more insight of, oh, maybe there's an application cycle coming up that I should keep an eye out for.
Yeah, thank you, Justin, for mentioning that. How I should be promoting this as the one who's running this. There's actually a campaign called Work for California. We're in all kind of different, LinkedIn, as all different other social media platforms that we're constantly posting job fair, career fair opportunity, as well as online help. There's tutoring center to help people apply in terms of filling out the applications. There's also, tips and, hey, how do I navigate this process? So please take a look, the search for Work for California campaign, and you can find a lot of information.
And
make sure you get a good understanding of what the specific categories that your skills would qualify you for, because there's, probably several that could potentially be hiring someone like you. But if you're only looking at probably AGPA or SSA or things like that, you might be missing a lot of opportunities that might pay a little bit more. So yeah, make sure you talk to people who understand the different positions and get a good lay of the land for those. Mariana, do you want to add anything about the legislature and bodies like that? Because it's a little different getting a job there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And I would say that even though all the jobs get posted on, like I said, the Assembly posts their jobs, the Senate posts their jobs. So when you go on there, you can see the different jobs and for which member. So it's not like you are applying to work in the Senate itself. You're applying to work in different offices for different senators and assembly members. So I would say research those members, research their policies, look at their social media, the press releases that they've issued, the bills that they work on, and see which one is a fit for you when you are applying to those jobs. And I don't know about the assembly, but the Senate does offer paid internships now. There's still some that are unpaid, but most of them are paid. So I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of those. Oh, and when you apply, stop by an office. All our offices are open. It's good to put, a face to a name so it doesn't get buried in just a list of all the applicants that we receive.
I think another factoid I'd put out there for everyone is the Career Center on campus does also serve all alumni, so not just students. So when the Career Center is hosting a career fair and many state entities are there, you are welcome to come to those career fairs. You can contact a counselor in the Career Center who specializes in state employment and ask for their input on your resume, your cover letter, and any tips and hints that they may have. So be sure to take advantage of that. We have another attendee who first wanted to say thank you to everyone for your time and experience and for sharing that. But says she's currently employed in the state government and is interested in advancing to an executive leadership role, like an assistant or deputy director, a director. As staff in these positions are often appointed, what are some of the best ways to build connections to be able to showcase my experience and qualifications?
Let's see. I think actually there's two categories of so-called being appointed. Usually the executive role have what is called a career executive appointment versus an exam position, which is actually governor's office appointment. And for both of those categories, they have various level from assistant deputy directors, assistant deputy secretaries to as high as you want to get. I would say for those, a common theme is make sure you have a good grasp of the role that you want to apply, and in order to get those good grasp of what's going on, it definitely talks to the people who are either in this job, in those jobs previously, as well as their colleagues. I think that is going to give you a lot more insights and get you better prep for. And if you are going through the career executive assignment, CEA, we call it route, that is a very competitive process through a statement of qualification, and then that's the quote unquote exam process as well. But if you go through an appointment process for those executive role, definitely the network, the referral, but also the interview process is very rigorous. So that's why the more you know about the job that you're interested in, the better you prepare, the better chance you will have.
I was going to add to that, just the appointment piece. I've been part of a couple of workshops where the governor's office gives information on how to seek an appointment, and they're pretty available and open. Well, I wouldn't say available, pretty open to having conversations with people that are interested and telling and explaining what the appointment process looks like. There are several that are not, like full-time jobs that a lot of people get their start in, like fair boards, chiropractors boards, like different, there's just so many. And sometimes it's, it might be a couple steps before you get to where you want to be. But once you get into their sphere, I think that, there's opens up so many more opportunities. So I would encourage you to reach out to learn more from those that are vetting applicants to put before the governor.
I would just add, don't get too wrapped up into the word appointment. There are some appointed positions like Secretary Tong's that the appointment part of it is a really big deal. There are others where I'm a CA, I was quote unquote appointed, but nobody in the governor's office or the Senate had any idea any of that happened. So it's a very different thing. The same word appointed is used or appointment is used, but But yeah, very, very different worlds.
am aware that we are close to the wrap-up time for this session, so I would encourage everyone to look at the Q&A. There's been some good back and forth dialogue going on in the Q&A with some advice from some of the participants to fellow participants. We are not going to make it through all the questions, so I just wanted to suggest looking there. I would say the last question that I would throw out there, because a couple of people asked about getting their foot in the door with the state, whether they're transitioning from a nonprofit or another sector and getting into the state. Someone asked about finding part-time jobs with the state. Someone else suggested a part-time job with the state is a good way to get your foot in the door. So just any kind of wrap-up thoughts on that area of getting your foot in the door and maybe finding a part-time opportunity as one way to do that. And then I will let Devin close us up.
I would say, keep trying. Again, I will be the first one to acknowledge, unless you go through a governor's office appointment, even that process is not, easy by any means, because we are looking for talent, is that you keep trying. Don't let the exam process discourage you because you feel like, oh, there's more hoops I need to jump through. Don't let the first couple of declined to even interview discourage you, because we do get large pool of candidates. The state is always looking for talent, and like I said, for those that are persistent about it, and that also shows that you're that interested in the state of California, which is going to land you to the place that you want to do. So just keep trying, keep talking to different folks, and we have an alum network here. There's a lot of good help, and I want to echo what Devin is saying in one of his work style reference of write. Yes, writing skill. If you have one of those are really good, please do highlight it, because we are in dire need of people who have really, really good writing skill and just communication skill in general. So don't be afraid to showcase your talent and to meet people and to learn about the different opportunities.
If I may just expand on that a little bit, I totally agree. That's how I got my foot in the door with the state, as I mentioned earlier. But I find also just being open-minded about where you get your foot in at the state. I knew I wanted to be doing something either, focusing on the environment or state budgeting, which is where I ended up at. But at the same time, I found that starting at a different state department and getting state experience to understand the way that the state operates, those skills are transferable to almost any other state department. So if you're dead set on, oh, I really want to work for one of two departments, if you're finding that you're having a hard time getting your foot in the door there may be opportunities elsewhere for you to get there and then eventually find your way over to where you want to be.
Yeah, I just want to mention the fellowships that I talked about earlier, is the Capital Fellows Program, the SAC Semester Program, and the Assembly and the Senate websites to look at what opportunities there are there. But definitely highlight again what I said is making that personal connection. In the legislature, it really is about relationships and who you know. So even if you don't know anyone now, and you apply for a job, stop by, ask for a coffee, ask for a meeting, a quick chat to kind of highlight your experience and your interests, and find mentors in the building. There's so many of us that are always looking to mentor people that want to be in this position that didn't have those mentors when we were looking for jobs. And so we're all looking to kind of give back, but it really is, you have to be persistent. Patiently persistent is what I've heard someone say recently. But like I said, it'll work out. So don't give up on yourself.
And the Capital Fellows program is currently accepting applications. So it's an annual process. So now would be the time if that is something of interest to you. Sorry, Devin, I said I was going to let you say thanks, but.
No problem. I'll add that I want to emphasize that temporary positions are a really great way to get your foot in the door. Literally every person I've ever hired in a temporary position has subsequently been hired to a permanent position with our office. So as long as you do a good job, pretty much anyone will find room for you. Can be a little unideal having that temporary uncertainty, but the state is very much set up to grow people from within, even if it's not your dream department or ideal salary or something from day one. It's very easy to move around, and it's just set up to kind of grow over time. So get in and figure out the rest a little bit later would be kind of my advice to you. And with that, I will say thank you again to all of our fabulous panelists. Thank you for attending Career Buzz, and please stay connected with us, your alumni association. Stingers up.
Stingers up. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. And to all of you as panelists, as soon as I end this, it's going to cut you off too. So thank you again for your
Thank
time.
you for having us.
Have a fantastic
you.
day.
Thank
All
you, you
right.
too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Jennifer.
Bye.